It's nice to see everybody's names and people on campus today. Beautiful day on the Mesa. And welcome to all of our YouTube guests as well, as we are going live there. Okay, as it's 2:16, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I want to say hello and welcome and good afternoon to the April 12th, 2022 San Diego Mesa College Community Forum. As you can tell, I am not President Luster. President Luster is not here with us today. And so I have the honor and the pleasure to lead the meeting today. And so I am Lorenz Legaspi, the proud Vice President of Administrative Services. And today we have the pleasure of hearing from our vice presidents, getting some of the updates about what's going on campus. And then also too, we have an opportunity to hear about our Title III HSI STEM program, as well as our APAH grant. That's a lot of acronyms and a lot of letters, and I will let them tell you about that when we get into the presentation. And so I'll go ahead and get started with some of the updates from President Luster and for Administrative Services as well. And so as you are all aware, we are reviewing the remote work requests for the campus. And so as Vice Chancellor Greg Smith had sent out the remote work plan, and we asked everyone, and President Luster sent out an email saying how we're going to review on campus. That campus review has happened. And yesterday, President Luster and the three vice presidents reviewed all of the remote work requests that we've received so far that were submitted. And for the most part, we as a college, we will be supporting the ad hoc type of requests. And there's a little bit more flexibility within the scheduling of when people can be called back into work and when we will be able to work remotely for some of it. And so that we will be supporting some of the ad hoc requests. And it's imperative that we all understand that we are available to serve our students first. And as we're transitioning back to campus, it is important to know that it's not just particularly for employee convenience, but also too making sure we're providing the services needed for our students as they return back to campus, as we have more of a return back to campus. And so approvals will begin later this week if they haven't started already kind of trickling in. And so do know that your vice president, or if you're in an org structure that reports to the president, will be approving or having conversations about what that looks like moving forward. And so if there are any questions, please reach out to your immediate supervisor, and then also to all the way up through your vice presidents. And then I'll go ahead and get started for the updates from Administrative Services. One second. So the theme of my presentation to you all today is centered around coming back to campus. As we look around, there are more cars, there are more people, there are more activity as we are transitioning back to campus. And again, as the remote work is going to be very limited in the amount of days that we have, and as we transition to next fall and we look towards it, it's imperative that we remember some of the things going on campus and some of the supports that we have from an Administrative Services for our staff and students as well. And so masks are still required. What we'll talk about today is the gender neutral restrooms, the lactation room access, and then the evening administrator, campus safety escorts. There's a safety form and campus Wi-Fi. But again, to start off with, the masks are still required at this time until we learn more from the district if they're going to be changing, if we are going to be changing that mandate. But until then, while you are inside in close proximity with others, masks are still required, and they are around campus in mask dispensers, and N95 masks are available. Please work with either your instructor or your dean or your supervisor if you shall request one of those. And so, not that I expect everyone to remember where all of the gender neutral restrooms are. I want to thank the LGBTQ plus group and the site to making sure that this is available. So we put a QR code here so you can see where all of the gender neutral restrooms are on campus as we're transitioning back. And then we will also have this, I believe, available recorded online too. So you can go back and then hit the QR code or hit the link within the website. And then also too, if you recall, we do have a lactation room on campus and access and information for all faculty, staff, and students we'll check in with the Business Support Office in room A101 to obtain an access code for that, or you can email Mesa Lactation Room at sdccd.edu for more information. And again, a QR code for those that want to be directed directly to the site. Also, too, for those that are on campus for having later courses, there is an evening administrator. Here are the hours to reach them. Go ahead and use extension 2463 from any campus phone, or it's 619-388-2463. College Police's phone number is right there as well. And the evening administrator will serve to help locking classrooms for faculty who have forgotten their keys or need them, and some of the codes or a student leaving belongings behind a classroom. Those are areas and items of when to call the evening administrator. And then for those that serve as evening administrator for disciplinary matters, please see the evening administrator packet. Also, too, on campus, we have a safety forum, and this is again for those COVID and non-COVID related. If you see something, say something, and go ahead and email myself or Jacqueline Collins or Matt Fay, and or all three of them. And also, too, there's a place to have a form if needed, and or if you wanted to be anonymous in your reporting. But please, if you see something, say something on campus. And there are safety escorts available 24/7 on campus, and it's available to all students, faculty, and staff. So here's the number to call. It's 619-388-6405. Again, that's 619-388-6405 with your location and your destination, and they'll walk you through the police escort for your car, to your building, to your car, specifically for those at night who would like that extra sense of security. And then as we're coming back to campus, as we learned, internet and technology is one of the main things to get our work and our classes done this semester. And so here's the Wi-Fi at Mesa. The password is Mesa Spring 2022, all lowercase, no spaces. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. And that is the updates from administrative services. And then I'd like to pass it over to Dr. Ashante Hands to give updates from student services.
Thanks so much, Lorenz. You always do such a great report. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Ashante Hands, Vice President for Student Services here at Mesa College, and I'm happy to share some student services updates with you. So the first is that just before spring break, Mesa College distributed 2,178 at-home COVID-19 test kits to Mesa students and employees. We encouraged everyone, regardless of vaccination status, to test the Friday and Monday before returning from spring break. We just wanted to say a special thanks to admin services, student affairs, outreach, student services for coordinating these efforts and doing it so quickly. We are always trying to find ways for us to return safely together. We are happy to share that over 215 prospective students and families attended last week's Jumpstart Your Success at Mesa College event. So the day included welcomes, workshops, departments and programs, booths, food, entertainment, and scholarship opportunity drives, tours, you name it. So we anticipate seeing many of these students in the summer and fall. So again, shout out to student affairs, student outreach, participating departments, dance, facilities, and many more for making this event a reality. This is the first time we've held this event in person in over 2 years, and being able to make those connections really did make a difference. So this week, Mesa College, in partnership with R&D Facilitation, is hosting 4 student focus groups centering Black student voices, their COVID experiences, and feedback for our future planning. So over 60 students signed up to participate. We anticipate hearing high-level preliminary results at our upcoming PCAP retreat, and this work will ultimately align with our leadership teams that we're forming. So as a reminder, an email was circulated by President Luster, where she invited our entire campus community to join a leadership team for San Diego Mesa College that will support the campus in creating spaces for growth as we transition back from COVID-19 and implement our roadmap 2030. So a team of 20 individuals will promote, recruit, and facilitate safe and brave spaces that address the needs of our Black and Latinx students and areas for growth in the campus community in general. A stipend of $1,000 will be provided to each student, staff, and faculty participant who completes 20 hours of teamwork in spring 2022 with this leadership team. So we will be sending out a reminder. People have already started signing up. And I do want to remind you that the deadline to express interest in being a part of this team is Friday, this Friday. So Ann Hedekin just last week received news that 981 Mesa students were accepted to SDSU for fall of 2021. This is up from 695 admits last year. And if you kind of look over the years, we usually hover around 800. We had a dip last year, but this is such exciting news for our students. We also learned that 89% of transfer students from previous cycles, SDSU cycles, are on track to complete their degrees and didn't receive the time to degree for transfers, but we know that their completion and GPA are higher than what they call native undergraduates at SDSU. So while we are still waiting on UCSD's information, we know that they have a 55% transfer rate, and that last fall they accepted 185 Mesa students, which is the highest for San Diego Community College colleges, and that UC transfers graduate in about 2.38 years. So in other data news, district recently conducted a student withdrawal survey for students enrolled in fall 2021 classes, but did not enroll in spring 2022 courses. So district-wide, students listed top reasons for stopping attendance of classes as personal or family commitments, employment commitments. They needed to take a temporary break from studies, that they had transferred or completed their studies, that they had financial hardships, and that learning online was challenging. We also asked students what factors would have allowed them to continue, and some of the top responses we received were additional online courses, more evening or weekend classes, more in-person classes, that they couldn't get the class they needed, more college or personal counseling services, and more support for married students or students with children. We anticipate receiving a dashboard that will help disaggregate the information specifically for Mesa College students, but I just wanted to share that information since we got it hot off the press last week. I had recently shared at President's Cabinet that Vicki Hernandez, our Veterans and Records Supervisor, had her last day with us here at Mesa College on Friday, April 8th. Vicki joined us in August 2019, and she was instrumental in serving our students, supporting and transitioning our Veterans Success Center, policy formation, and our designation as a veterans-friendly campus. We are so sad to see her go, but we are so happy because she will have now a new opportunity with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And so as we figure out how it is that we will move forward and with the foundation of the great work that Vicki did for our campus, Dean Eileen Crakes has circulated an email letting our entire district know that we're seeking an acting supervisor to serve through the end of fall 2022. So if you are interested or know someone who might be interested in this incredible opportunity to serve our veterans and our students, be sure to respond to the email that was sent earlier today. We also want to let you know that our scholarship awards ceremony is coming up. It is our 29th annual ceremony, and it's going to be held on Thursday, April 28th at 4:30 p.m. in the Mesa College Gymnasium. So at this event, we'll be recognizing and celebrating our student scholarship award recipients. We'll include appetizers, recipient recognition, opportunity drawings, and not just any opportunity drawing. I think the email said extravagant opportunity drawings, fun and even more. So stay tuned for the list of recipients. But in the meantime, we want to let you know that tickets are on sale and that sponsorships are also available. Tickets will be $25, and I'm certain that Vicki will drop some information in the chat so you all know how you can participate in this exciting event. Finally, I would like to share that, it is always very difficult for me to even begin to tell a tiny part of the student services story and our commitment to creating the conditions that matter for our students to succeed. So our student services monthly updates for March 2020 recently came out, and I will drop that link in the chat. I want to let you know that there are all kinds of incredible events, activities, workshops, support sessions for our students that are taking place. Many of our community partners or individuals are going out to conferences such as APAH, having incredible experiences. You can probably follow a lot of people on social media to see what they have learned and how they were inspired and motivated by that participation. And so we do want you to check out the work that we do. It is a lot, and be in constant communication with us if you have questions or concerns. Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you, Dr. Hans. And now we'll turn it over to Vice President of Instruction, Dr. O'Connor.
Hi, oops, here we go, you disappeared. Hi, thank you, Vice President Legaspi. Good afternoon, muy buenas tardes, everyone, on this gorgeous day. A couple of updates from instruction, and then we'll get to the meat of the meeting, which is really two amazing presentations on two great grants that we were awarded in fall. Quickly, in terms of instruction, our summer schedule is done. Yay, it feels great to be finished. Now it's circulating widely across the campus. It's going to the OER librarian, Lisa Bergert, to make sure that she reviews it and suggests OER resources to faculty who may not be aware they exist in their discipline. It's also in the hands of our colleagues in counseling to make sure that they know what courses we are planning. In terms of the planning itself, it's about 76% online and 24% on campus. And it pretty much parallels what we do every summer. We have a lot of athletic conditioning classes. So that's the breakdown coming up in summer. We're, of course, never stop scheduling in instruction. So we are now in the middle of scheduling the fall schedule. Having a lot of really great conversation, and I want to highlight a couple of things. First one is the district, just like every other district in the state, has been in the midst of trying to figure out how do we clearly communicate to students how the instruction in a specific section is going to be delivered. We often use terminology that is familiar to us, but kind of confusing to the students. So is it synchronous? Is it asynchronous? Is it both? Is it remote? So we have Title V nomenclature, we have Campus Solutions nomenclature. Trying to marry that for the sake of clarity has been a journey for all of us. So the Victor DeVore at the district and Brian Weston at the district have been trying to figure out a way to clarify that nomenclature. Those proposed names for whether this is online, fully online, partially online, what that means. And of course, we have to get it right for apportionment purposes and for audit purposes as well. So all that has been widely circulated throughout the district. I know faculty have voted on it. It's been widely circulated among schedulers as well as student input. So very soon the district is going to send us job aids for Campus Solutions for this new nomenclature. So more to come on that. Another important thing is that scheduling doesn't happen in a vacuum. And I want to thank particularly Dr. Bridget Heron. We have been keeping her very busy with all these like 3 a.m. Bridget, I have a question. So she is a member of the enrollment management group and has been doing quite a bit of data search for us as well as analysis, particularly to areas that we are moving along. And is in addition to Bridget, I also want to thank all the deans, the chairs, and counseling particularly. So we are looking at how many students take 8-week classes. Do they take it in the first 8-week session, the second one? Do they take a 16-week plus a second 8-week? What are the patterns? What are the courses that tend to be paired? And most importantly, what is the student success when we have combinations like that? The reason that is important is because in the School of Math and Science, we have started with a project. I want to thank Dean Paloma Vargas and all her chair leadership for starting with a project that aims to look at cross coordination of schedule. In STEM, you have a lot of requisites, prerequisites, a lot of labs that go for a lot of hours. So we want to make sure that we remove barriers from the students so they can take all the classes they need at the times they need them and not have 3 classes conflict. So more to come on that. And then in addition to that project, in combination with what we call the Platinum 5, which is the Golden 4 plus ethnic studies, we are going to take a little bit more time to look at other types of coordination, contextualized teaching and learning in some English classes, for example, for our first-year students, as well as looking at, in conjunction with ethnic studies, the development of a STEM identity for our underrepresented students. So lots of good stuff to come. And speaking of good stuff, it was fantastic on Saturday to be on campus. It was nice and warm, seeing all the students and seeing all of you. It was just amazing. I felt like I was back home. The energy was great, and just all the hugs and the interactions. It was just an amazing day. So thank you for being here for our prospective students, and congratulations to Vicki Miller. I saw her briefly. She always does an amazing job with Jumpstart, her and her entire team. Okay. So speaking of our presentation, it is my true honor to introduce 2 of our grants that we received in the fall, not just 1, but 2. The HSI Title III STEM grant, as well as the APAH grant. And the presenters for that are going to be, for the HSI, is going to be Tony Trejo Parsons, who is our acting HSI director, alongside with Amanda Fusco Hernandez, who is our lead faculty member. And then for the APAH grant, which will follow after the HSI grant is done, we're going to have Dean Pearl Lee, along with Counselor Amber Alatorre, Professor Jennifer Durillo from English, and Hai Hong from institutional effectiveness. So I am excited to share with the campus the amazing and innovative and equity and student-centered work that these 2 projects have outlined. So without further ado, Tony and Amanda, you want to start us off?
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. So thank you and glad to be here. I am Tony Trejo Parsons. I'm the acting HSI Title III grant coordinator. And our newest grant that we were awarded in October last year is STEM E-Cubed, Equity, Excellence, and Éxito. And we are going to start with Dr. Isabel O'Connor.
So thank you, Tony. I just wanted to say once again, big thank you to the writing team that you see listed in here. We spent about 6 months working with the grant writer and really looking at data. I know Nancy Cortez, we kept saying, but Nancy, could you twist this? And she had this amazing work to get us the data. And that's where we started. So thank you to all those who participated. And of course, that was the writing team. Now we have an even broader across the whole STEM spectrum and beyond this, and including many people on the campus who are going to do the work. So thank you, Tony. It's all yours.
Thank you, Isabel. As Isabel said, we have an expansive team. So this is our team. And I'm going to let you just digest that whole screen, but a lot of people working on this grant and all the projects and activities in order to meet our objectives. And we have hit the ground running. Speaking of our strategies and objectives, not necessarily to read, but as written in the grant proposal, we have 3 strategies to meet 7 objectives. Those objectives include an increase in STEM enrollment among our Hispanic and Latinx students and low-income students, an increase in STEM course completion, an increase in transfer within the STEM fields, an increase in student support utilization, meaning our peer mentoring support, which we will talk about, as well as our STEM orientation that we will also talk about. A decrease in unit accumulation, so really taking that pathways approach to try to get students through with the least amount of units that they need to take, increasing associate's degree completions, and increasing professional development for our faculty. And I am going to let our faculty lead, Dr. Amanda Fusco Hernandez, tell you about each of our projects.
Thank you, Tony. So my name is Amanda, and I am the faculty lead for our STEM grant. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of just briefly go over our different projects that we're working on to achieve these objectives that Tony talked about. So one of the first projects that I'm going to go over is STEM professional learning. And this project is coordinated by Juan Bernal. And one of the goals of this project is to increase the number of faculty and staff trained in equity-based teaching and learning with a STEM focus. So how can we put this equity-based teaching into the STEM classrooms? And so one of the things that we wanted to target was to have an increase in the number of faculty involved in this professional learning. So one of the strategies that we implemented this semester was a survey sent out to STEM faculty and staff to guide the professional learning. So in that survey, we asked questions like, what type of professional learning would you want to see? And in what format? Do you like more workshops where it's hands-on, or do you like it more as a seminar? And also what times? Because if it's during a time that student or faculty can't come, then it's not going to do anyone any good. So we ask questions like, do you like it at the beginning of the semester, in the summer, on weekends? And so one of the things that we got from the survey is, for example, a lot of STEM faculty really like the hands-on workshop-based type of professional learning, where they can have a lot of interactive conversations. Another thing that we're doing this semester is we're expanding the already existing faculty inquiry groups to ones that have a STEM focus. And then in addition, we already from the previous grant had what was called lab redesign. And this lab redesign really focused on labs specifically. And so in this grant, one of the things we're doing for our professional learning is to convert these lab redesigns to communities of practice work groups. So focusing on, for example, changing the course, the class. And so one of the things that's already in the works is having a work group for AB 705 in math. Tony, if you could switch the slide. The next project that is also included is working on studio space classrooms. And this project is being coordinated by Donna Badinsky and Jen Snyder. And so in this project, we're going to be doing 4 classrooms in the math and science complex, doing 1 classroom per year. And so the goal of the studio spaces is to create spaces to increase active learning and also to enhance student interactions and faculty student interactions. And so each space is going to be designed with a focus on how active learning will look in each discipline. So what works best for biology might not work best for math. And so this semester, we started with the physical science classroom, specifically MS 109. So they're currently working with the department on choosing furniture, including movable tables, chairs, and whiteboards. And it will also include updated technologies such as projectors and laptops. We anticipate, hopefully, that this will be ready for use in fall of 2022. Our next classroom we will be doing is a math classroom. Tony, next slide. Okay. And one of the next projects is a curriculum work group. And so this project is really kind of looking at pathways. And so this project is being coordinated by Paula Gustin. And it's an interdisciplinary and collaborative discussion amongst STEM disciplines: chemistry, physics, math, biology, counseling, and institutional effectiveness. So we teach the same students, so there's natural cohorts of students. So one of the projects that we've already started this semester is creating an accelerated Chem 200. So the prerequisite course for Chem 200 is called Chem 152. And data has shown that students that have higher level math classes have a much higher success rate in Chem 200, 84% compared to the average of 70%. So the idea is to get these students and have them take an accelerated Chem 200 where they're not taking that prerequisite course and they're able to go directly into Chem 200. This will help to decrease the amount of time it takes to transfer, and it will also help to decrease the amount of units that they're accumulating on reaching that plan. In addition, another one of the projects that we are currently working on is a Chemistry 152, 152L, which is the laboratory co-requisite course that goes along with this for biology majors. The idea is that having a chemistry course that kind of collaborates with biology, because a lot of our students aren't chem majors, but we're supporting the biology classes. So if we have a chemistry class that's kind of focused around biology, we're hoping to have an increase in success, not only in the chemistry courses, but also in their biology. One of the ways that we're going to be doing this is to help identify gaps in knowledge in areas needed for success in their biology courses. So some of the things we have already found, for example, is pH, intermolecular forces, things that are really being utilized in biology, and knowing that they're kind of having these gaps in knowledge. So how can we address this? Tony, next slide. In addition, we also have similar projects being worked on this semester, looking at physics and calculus. So identifying gaps in their knowledge and areas that need clarity. Having change in curriculum and focus or on topics. For example, one of the things that they've looked at is vectors, and have co-curriculum writing between these two disciplines, and also work on assignments that could be worked on in both classes. And again, this is to hopefully help increase the success of both their physics and their calculus courses. An additional project that we have also started this semester is looking at a collaboration between physics, engineering, and mathematics. And one of the things is developing a Physics 19 course. This would be a short-term, low-unit course focused on key concepts that help support all of these courses. And the last part is enhanced community or communication among faculty. And so part of this is to create a space that allows for all of our disciplines to collaborate together. So professional development opportunities, that would be something that would help to keep this dialogue between all of the disciplines to keep going, and to maybe even create a Canvas shell that's available to all of the different STEM disciplines. Tony, next slide. Okay. One of the next projects is free online STEM homework. I am the faculty coordinator for this project, and the idea of this project is to have an OER type homework system. A lot of the OER textbooks that are available specifically for chemistry, they have very little in the homework that's available, and they have absolutely no online option available. So one of the things that we feel that is going to really help in creating accessibility to all of our students, especially Hispanic and low-income students, is to increase their access to this online homework, because right now the only possibility is a published-based homework system, which is very expensive. And so one of the things when creating this project that I did research on was I found that in order for homework to be effective is that the homework has to be a feedback system, which what I mean by this is that you can't just have where you have questions and then you have the answers. You need to have more feedback where, why are the questions wrong? Why are certain questions right? So part of the homework that I'm developing right now, and so right now I'm starting with Chem 152, And once we have this worked out, we are going to do it across all STEM disciplines. So for example, chemistry, biology, math, and astronomy, okay? But the course or the homework system that I'm working on right now is creating the questions, but also building into the questions hints to how to solve the problems, worked out examples, and giving feedback to why questions are right or wrong. Tony, next slide. And one of the last projects, not one of the last projects I will be talking about is the STEM orientation piece, which the working title we have right now, and it's still very much in the planning process, is called STEM Kickstart. This is being coordinated by me and Brian Mackus in the STEM Center. And the STEM orientation is for all students. It's not just for new entering students, but for all STEM students. And we're thinking that this is going to be a 3 to 4 day event and at the end of the summer before the fall of 2022. And in the planning process, we have put together a work group, and today was actually our first official meeting of this work group. But this work group includes faculty members from all of the STEM disciplines. We also have the STEM counselor, the STEM coordinator, and people represented from the student services. And what our idea for this STEM Kickstart is going to be is that in the first day, we're going to go over what it means to be a STEM major. For example, what are some careers that are available or are available to STEM majors? It's not necessarily just, I have to be a doctor. So if you have a biology degree, what are different career opportunities that are available to you? In addition, we were thinking about having professionals come in and give discussions about different opportunities and even in internships that are available. And then in the second day is going to be more focused on how to succeed in a STEM major. So presenting different things that are available, for example, peer mentoring, which will be discussed further with Tony, the tutoring available, the STEM center, but all of the different things that are available to help them succeed. In addition, during the day too, one of the things we really wanted to focus on was to go over students' courses and schedules. Make sure that students are signed up for the right courses. Also, this would be a good opportunity to hand out the maps for pathways. And then the last part of the STEM Kickstart is what we call Math Bootcamp. And so our idea behind this is having a 1 to 2 day event where you're going over the math skills that are required to be successful in the different courses. And we were thinking about doing this in a very kind of discipline specific. So what math skills do you need to be successful in biology? What math skills would you need to be successful in chemistry? What math skills would you need to be successful, for example, in engineering? So it would be a very focused way of looking at the different things that would be required in order for these students to succeed. And then one of the last projects that is a continuation from the previous is peer mentoring. But I'm going to have Tony take this over.
Thank you, Amanda, very much. Before I get to the peer mentoring, I wanted to plug a couple other things that do balance between that have been going on through the Conexiones grant that is ending and are going to continue through the E-Cubed grant. One of them is our engineering workshops, which are occurring this semester every Friday on campus in B106, which is our innovation research lab. And so we currently have 24 students, I believe, that have been attending every Friday. They have been given a kit, an Arduino kit. Professor Hamid has been excellent teaching these engineering workshops. And really, it's a chance for students to get hands-on experience with some of the software and some of the tools that they would be using in an engineering, in the engineering workforce. So those will be continuing in the fall, and we are trying to talk about maybe doing something kind of cool in the summer. So more to come on those workshops. And while I have your attention around the IRL, I'm going to do a shameless plug for a speaker that we have coming on campus tomorrow, also in B106, again, the IRL, the Innovation Research Lab. And this is Hillary Frank. She is a doctoral student at UCSD, and she will come to talk to faculty or students about being a graduate STEM student and talking about research in general. So a little plug for the Innovation Research Lab there. And peer mentoring. So our STEM peer mentoring program is run by Irena. I'm sorry, Irena, I'm not going to try and butcher your last name because I respect that. So Irena and Brian Makis. And I do want to give a shout out to Kuko, who does a lot of work for all the grant, but she does a lot of the data collection and stuff with peer mentoring. So I wanted to make sure she got a shout out as well. These are our 15 peer mentors that we have this semester. In general, a peer mentor is identified by a faculty member in a class and are suggested to be peer mentors for that class the very next semester. So this is not only good for the students that are taking that course, but for the peer mentors themselves to really solidify the material that they learned in those courses. And they're dedicated to a course. So we're focusing on Math 150, let's say, which is Calc 1, and we have peer mentors that will serve students from any section of Math 150. Each course has a faculty liaison. We are working this semester with 9 faculty liaisons, and the faculty liaisons work with the peer mentors to make sure that the peer mentors have the materials they need. Maybe they can together do a workshop for students. Maybe all the biology 210A classes are studying a certain subject that week, and so giving the peer mentors a little insight into what to expect for questions from students. So it is a faculty mentor students partnership, and so it does build community. These peer mentors do not sit in classrooms. They are just available for specific courses, usually at times in between, maybe when 2 sections are offered. A little strategy about how we schedule the peer mentors, but they hold sessions, open sessions to tutor students within those classes. A little testimonial from one of our surveys last semester, or 2 years ago now. Oh, I forget, we're in 2022, sorry. Just saying that being able to talk to someone who recently took the class made it easier to ask them for help and made the class seem less scary and achievable. And as you could see, particularly with the peer mentors, as with all of our programs, we are really trying to do, provide services for our students and student success in all of the STEM disciplines. We have biology, chemistry, engineering, math, and physics, all represented with our peer mentors in our peer mentor program. So without further ado, I'm going to let the peer mentors tell you about their program. So give me 2 seconds while I jump out of here and start our video.
I went to peer mentoring for 196 throughout the whole semester. It was my first time going, and it really, really helped me. I loved collaborating on problems with fellow peers and getting new perspectives. It can really help with retention and building those hard skills that you need to learn physics in the best and most efficient way.
As a peer mentor, I'm in a wonderful position to help not only with homework, but also transfer advice and anything, pertaining to your personal lives as well. While the field of science is definitely tough and intimidating at first, my goal is to break it down into simple, digestible pieces that relate to everyday life examples.
If you are having trouble understanding some of the concepts or need help with certain assignments, then you can come to me and I can provide you with assistance.
In our sessions, we will not just learn how to solve problems, but we'll learn how to teach ourselves to solve problems. We learn how to be independent.
passion for helping people learn. My job as your peer mentor will be to create a safe space for you to ask questions, work together, and build healthy study habits so that you can succeed in your course.
And that is our E-Cubed grant. And I think I am now turning it over to Dr. Pearl Lee.
Hi, everyone. I am going to share my screen really quickly. Thank you, Tony. That was a wonderful presentation. Okay, and so what I will be presenting on today is the brand new grant that we have at Mesa College for our APAH. And so you'll be hearing that a lot. And what it is Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institution. So we're going to be talking about that a lot in the next 5 years, which is the lifespan of this grant. And so the grant is titled Equity, Empathy, and Excellence, Uplifting and Transforming Campus Culture Through a Kapwa Lens. And for our outline of our presentation today, we'll be giving a brief background on APAH, what it is, and how important it is across the nation. We'll also be talking about what is the concept of Kapwa and the Kapwa learning community. We will also have one of our wonderful researchers talk about the research and data on AAPI students. And then we'll also be delving more into grant details. And so we had so many different people that worked on the APAH grant. This is the first one ever at Mesa, which I mentioned. And there were so many folks that helped out with the grant development, including faculty, classified professionals, some administrators, and grant writers. So we have them listed on the left. So we have Amber Elatorre from counseling, Caitlin Choi from work-based learning, Jen Dorillo from English, Hai Hong from institutional research, Dean Monica Romero, who was the assistant dean at that point, and now she's the dean of business and technology. And we also had 2 grant writers that assisted, so Kathy Arreguin and Jamie Rudolph. And I wanted to thank our support from Mesa College, the executive team too. So down from our wonderful president, Pam Lester, to our VPI, Isabel O'Connor, our VP of Admin Services, Lorenz Legaspi, and our VP of Student Services, Ashanta Hands. And I didn't introduce myself.
Dr. Lee, I'm going to see if you're trying to share some slides because we don't see them.
Oh, you still don't see them? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, that would probably help. Huh. Are you able to see them now?
No.
This worked during the practice session.
There, we can see your whole screen.
Okay. How's that?
We see presenter view.
I swear this worked earlier. So let me. This is why we practice and it's still not working.
It happens.
How's that?
Still not sharing.
Okay, take 5. Presenter screen.
Still presenter screen.
You know, why don't we just do that? There's no notes anyways.
Let's do presenter screen then.
Okay. And then we can see that. All right, sorry about that, folks. Well, that's me. I'm the Dean for Social Behavioral Sciences. And so for our grant details, I mentioned it is the APAH grant, and it is the Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institution. We're going to make sure that everyone at the college knows that. And it is confusing too, because we use a lot of terminology to talk about different communities here at Mesa. So sometimes you'll hear AAPI, which is Asian American Pacific Islander, and we are developing new curriculum in this area. So I'll be primarily using that term, but we also use Asian American Pacific Islander, also API. These are the same population we're discussing here. And the overall grant goal is to enable institutions to improve and expand their capacity to serve ANAP and low-income individuals. So this is a newer grant that was established as a minority serving institution in 2007. So it hasn't been around nearly as long as Hispanic serving institutions, the HSI grants. However, there's more support that has been coming from the federal government to support this. And our project specifically at Mesa is designed to reduce equity gaps and increase academic success, retention, graduation, and transfer rates of ANAPESI and low-income students. So this is something that we're really excited about. And I did want to share, I mentioned that this is not a very common thing. So it's very special that we had this group of folks that came together to be able to write this grant really well and to be awarded. It's a very competitive process. And this is actually nationwide. There are not that many institutions that have been funded for ANAPESI grants. And in the lower half, you'll find San Diego Mesa College at the very bottom. And we were actually the only one in the San Diego region to ever have received the ANAPESI grant. And there are some in Orange County, but this is a really exciting thing here at Mesa. So I did want to pass on next to our Kapwa coordinators extraordinaire. So we have Amber Alatorre and Jen Dorillo, and they will be discussing a little bit more about Kapwa.
Thanks so much for that warm introduction, Pearl. I'm going to take this next slide about Kapwa. Kapwa Learning Community is in its third year at Mesa College. And when we created the learning community, Professor Dorillo and myself, we really wanted something, a safe place for students that identify as API, although it's open to everybody. And we've had very diverse cohorts the last 3 years. And so I'm just going to read to you this slide, our meaning of Kapwa. Kapwa is an indigenous Filipino core value, which roughly translates to I am who I am connected to. Rem Tanuan, a Eugene practitioner, refers to Kapwa as an ethos of sharing, seeing, and caring for others as oneself. The ancient Mayans called it Inakech, I am you, you are me. And the Nguni people have Ubuntu, I am because we are. You might understand these concepts as empathy, but that is only scratching the surface. Kapwa's Inakech, Ubuntu go deeper than that. It's about a shared identity, recognition of oneself in another, so that we truly see, manifest, and uplift our shared humanity. Next slide, please. And were these going to be your slides, Pearl?
Sure. And so some of the needs for our project grant, sorry, let me start my video, is, that Mesa was already designated, as I mentioned, as an ANAPESI institution. You have to reach a criteria of 10% of your students that are of the ANAPESI background. And we have about 16% of our students here at Mesa that are AAPI. And we unfortunately are finding that there's been a decrease even prior to the pandemic of our students in this population enrolling at Mesa. There have been also significant gaps in the success rates of our AA subpopulations in particular, and HI is going to be showing us more data about that. There's also, we found that there's been a lack of equity-informed practices to support AAPI student success. So we certainly are trying, different things, but I think that we can really improve at Mesa by putting in more structures, institutionalizing the support, and putting more of a focus on these disproportionately impacted students. And at the time of developing the grant, there were no AAPI studies curriculum, so no programs or courses, but we did have 2 AAPI focused courses offered at Mesa, one being Asian American Literature with Professor Jen Durillo, who will be speaking, and then also with Gloria Kim, who taught a history class from an AAPI perspective. We have made progress on this, which I will talk about later. And some of the other things too we're finding is that there's no statewide learning community for AAPI students. You may have heard of AMOJA, that's focused on African American student success, or Puente, that's focused on Latinx, Hispanic student success, and there's not an equivalent for Asian American Pacific Islanders. So we are finding that there are more resources that are needed, and that we're often finding that there's a model minority myth, and that a lot of individuals think that Asian Americans may not need the assistance, and that they're doing quite well, but we are finding that there are many students that are in need of this support. All right, back to our Kapwa folks.
Thank you. So as I mentioned previously, Kapwa began in 2019, and it was a labor of love that started with Jennifer Durillo and myself. Later, Hai's going to show you some data from our dashboard that was requested by our APIA committee. As Pearl mentioned, oftentimes our AAPIA or AAPI student body is looked at as a monolith, but once we disaggregated the data, our suspicions were confirmed that some of our Southeast Asian students are experiencing equity gaps and are disproportionately impacted. So when the grant was written, because there's a bullet there that it lacks dedicated academic counselors, I did not have the specific dedicated time to Kapwa learning community and the students. So I do have some of that now, but we still lack institutionalization and reassigned time for the English part of coordinating Kapwa. And what our learning community looks like is it is English 101 and Personal Growth 120, which is similar to Puente. And the students continue into the spring semester taking English 205 with Professor Durillo. Next slide, please. Oops, hold on, I lost you. You want to talk about the summit? Oh yeah. Hi, we're so collectivist that we share a laptop. So one of the first things that that our second cohort did, which was developed, this was the second cohort was during the big lockdown. We created our first annual Kapwa Scholar Summit. So what they did was that they researched a topic that they were passionate about and then presented teach-ins. Not surprising, there were a lot of presentations focused on mental health. A lot of students felt pretty safe to talk about what they were going through. They were able to feel safe to talk about us, about what they were going through. And, as we all remember, the lockdown was really not just difficult on everybody, but also specifically our API students because of all the anti-API violence that was happening. So a lot of that catalyzed the students to see it as this chaotic moment to be able to say what they've always wanted to say but never had a chance to. So it was really inspiring to see these students pull it together during a lockdown. And a lot of them were very generally pretty introverted and reticent, but they were so passionate just to be together, to present their findings, and to just find community in each other. Next slide, please. All right, so Kapwa started off with scholars that were dedicated and motivated to making a difference. From our first cohort, they created the Asian Pacific Diversity Club, which remains strong and very active. There was a little bit of a dip again during the lockdown, but they were able to kind of push through that and figure out how to meet virtually. And now they're meeting in person, which is has been really nice. Pearl, sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So this is how it's been going. We were able to have a recognition ceremony for them at Liberty Station. This was, once the, lockdown was still kind of in place, but we were
out in public and in the air. So that was really nice. This is APD Club meeting at Avanza for the first time in person. And for the first time this whole time that I've been at Mesa, I was able to attend APAH, the Asian Pacific Americans in Higher Education Conference with 5 of our students. We had students from each cohort represented, as well as someone from APD. All right, let's see. I think this is where I turn it to Hi. Hi.
Hello. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Jen. So this picture is the very first AAPI town hall we have in 2019, right before the pandemic. And as you can see that we have 25 Kapwa scholar and 25 AAPI scholar that were informed about the event from word of mouth from friends. Next slide, please. So I want to quickly share with you some of the data that we collected from the very first town hall that with the student voices. So on the left side, as you can see, is the different metrics and different statement about the event. And red mean not good, and blue mean good. So just look at the part on the blue on the left side, overwhelming blue. So the all positive. For example, 100% satisfaction about the overall content. And then also we also have a statement that say the event met my expectation, and also 100% of students agree. Another statement that say that the college should continue offering events like this, and 92% of students agree. So again, all really positive. Now looking on the right side, it's the actual testimony from the student, and we see words like comfortable, motivated, passionate, felt like home, part of something bigger, excited to start with. So all of that, and then this is the student need, this is the student voices, this is the need to belong. And we do know that belonging is an important factor in academic outcome, and the student are voicing their needs. Next slide, please. Speaking of outcome and needs, here is a snapshot from our AAPI or ANAP dashboard, and a big shout out to King Ong A for her incredible work on this. So in this snapshot, this is what happened when we don't disaggregate the data. So we are looking at success rate and the equity gap. The first column, the enrollment count. Second column is success rate, ANAP, 78% on top, and then non-ANAP 71% at the bottom. And then we compare that to the average success rate on campus, which is 72%. And because of that, 78 minus 72%, we got 6% above the average. And then for the non-ANAP is negative 1% below the average. That's the equity gap. And that is if we group the data together. Now in the next slide, what I'm going to show you is that so in this particular slide, we keep the non-ANAP group the same, exactly the same as earlier. But remember the ANAP group earlier, now we disaggregate them into smaller subcategories. And notice the wide range of success, and notice the bars. Some of the bars already turned red. We have Japanese, 86% success rate compared to the average of 72 on campus. That is 14-point difference. We have Samoan, 61%, which is less than African American in the same year, and 11 point less than the average, and 25 point less than Japanese. So notice the big wide range of variation in the success rate. And then this group of students, if we use the traditional way of working, which means that we usually put them under the big umbrella of ANAP or APIA, we will not see the gap until we disaggregate the data. That's why usually we call this group the invisible group. Next slide, please. So just one more slide. This one we're looking at low income, and low income are blue, not low income is green. So for simplicity, I'm only show one semester, and let's take a look at, and you can also take a look at the dashboard for other information in other semester. But just look at the trend over here. The top is a detailed breakdown on the ANAP versus non-ANAP. And then again, you don't have to look at the number, but notice the blue. They kind of like the middle part with Chinese, Indian, Japanese, Korean would do not have a lot of low income student representation. But look at the size of that blue bar and compare that to the size of the blue bar for the rest of the group, and notice the big variation again in the percentage of low income among the sub-ethnicity within the umbrella of ANAP. Now, in comparison, if you take a look at the bottom chart, that we see that kind of like the typical way that we usually show the data when we group things together. I want to draw your attention to, for example, Black and African American is still the biggest in terms of low income group. Look at the size of that blue bar comparing to the rest in this slide. So let me be clear that our focus should never be away from this group as a college. However, while we are having the African American and the Black student, let's not forget the other group, the invisible group within the ANAP too. So with that being said, let's transition back to Pearl.
Thank you so much, Hai. I think that those numbers are really powerful. And I also want to give a shout out to King also for working with the institutional effectiveness team to put together such important research that highlights these disparities. And so when we're looking at the goal again of this 5-year grant, which is for $1.5 million, I didn't mention, which is $300,000 per year, what we're really trying to do is 2 things. So one is implementing equity-informed systemic reforms. So this is a really big change at Mesa College, and really building that foundation, the groundwork for how we are able to shift what we're doing to serve our APIA students, AAPI, I think I missed it there, and also our low income students. So I think Hai was really able to emphasize, that we have a lot of AP or Asian American students that are not doing as well as their other Asian counterparts. And when we look at, compared against the average of the college too. And then also even some of the students that are doing really well in those subpopulations were very low income. And we know that there are many challenges that are going to come from being a low income student. And I agree with Hai pointing out that our African American students, the disparities are certainly there as well. And I think that one of the wonderful things about our MSI minority serving institution grants in general, so HSI and ANAPZ, are really designed to try to make changes that will benefit all students as well. However, we have a focus on a specific group. And so in order to do this, which is a tall order, we are going to have to look at integrating and having capacity building activities to increase the number of students that we're serving from the AAPI community, our low income students, and the ones that are completing degrees, and also that are participating in the growing regional economy. So we are looking at connections with work-based learning and job placement as well. And so some of the specific strategies that we have, this group, and I wanted to add too, I actually did not help out with the writing of the grant at all. The grant was written before I joined Mesa College in July 1st. So it is such an honor to be able to work on it, but I didn't dream big for all of these strategies here. But I am thrilled to be able to work on them and to support them. So one of the things that we are looking at is intrusive student counseling and advising. And I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a focus on the grant with work-based learning, and also with the Kapwa learning community that you saw earlier, that is an API focused learning community. We're also looking at peer mentoring, and I love hearing about the peer mentoring that STEM is doing through the E-Cubed grant. So we'll have to see, maybe, look at how they're doing things and figure that out too. And we're also have student leadership activities. It was really great to be able to bring students to the APAH conference that happened just last week. So it's Asian Pacific Americans in higher education. And it was a really great way to get more involvement from our faculty and our students that were able to attend. We have been in discussions to establish an AAPI center. So having a dedicated space to support students and to run some of these different grant activities. We have been working on the development of AAPI curriculum and also AAPI infused courses. So you may have heard about the new CSU requirement in ethnic studies, area F, and then the ones that are coming to the California community colleges that many of our MESA faculty members have pushed for and been leaders in really making that change and being advocates. And then we're also looking at something that, you know, everyone is going to be able to work on and benefit from at Mesa College, which is professional development. So specifically, we're looking at academic, financial, and culturally inclusive approaches to inquiry, teaching, and learning, as well as addressing the needs of API students and low-income students. So we will be doing that as well. So a little bit more on that PD we're looking at is having workshops on sensitivity and supporting AAPI and low-income students, best practices. So a lot of this too, I was seeing in the E-Cube grant too, for community of practice and having faculty working together to talk about what they're doing in the classroom and what's working. And also bringing in experts too. We have some experts at Mesa, and we may need to also bring in other folks as well that have the knowledge and skills to help us along in our process here too. And we mentioned with conferences and being able to participate and grow our learning and networking is really important. So these are some of the PD activities that we have planned through the grant. And we need to figure out too, we have to be able to measure, are we doing what we said we were going to do? Are we accomplishing our goals? And so when we talked about increasing enrollment, we have a benchmark to increase enrollment of AAPI students by 10%. We're talking about persistence, so that students stay with us too, to increase that by about 5%. We're talking about increasing the number of underserved AAPI and low-income students for degrees and certificates. So we're looking at an increase in graduation rate over 3 years, which would be about a 5% increase. And then we're also looking for wider participation with work-based learning and also the learning community of Kapwa. And then lastly, we're looking for we'll be working with the research team to measure, are we increasing visibility and representation of AAPIs through curriculum, and then having a space on campus too. So there's a lot going on in this grant, and we're at the early stages too. And I wanted to talk lastly about some of the work that's in progress. And we're just in the beginning of launching this grant. It was awarded in October of last year. I was a little bit jealous when I heard for E-Cube that they had 6 months to write the grant. From what I hear from the writing team, they had, I think it was 60 days, or maybe it was like a month even, to put it together. So I'm really amazed with what they put together and that the grant scored so highly. And we're moving forward with this. But we have had some staffing challenges so far in getting up and running. We are still forming, the plans we're going, and we're having to really shape this, but it is the very first grant that we're getting here for APAH at Mesa. And I was heartened at the APAH conference last week, where we were able to attend some pre-conferences on APAH grants, that this is a very common, unfortunately, it's a very common situation to be in across all the institutions that were in their first year too, is getting going. So it's not an abnormal thing, and this is something we're going to be putting a lot of attention towards. But I did want to be very upfront. This is something that is in progress. We're taking a lot of feedback, and we're moving forward on this. But there has been a lot of great work that has already been done in a short amount of time. So I had mentioned that there were no AAPI studies courses when the grant was written last summer, but now thanks to a lot of work from colleagues across the district, actually, we have an AAPI studies course designation, and the first class was actually it's going through the curriculum cycle now. That's been approved at our local level and at the district level, and it's now going to the state for an introduction to Asian American and Pacific Islanders class. So that's AAPI 123, and we will be proudly offering it in fall 23. So that's one of the pieces. And we are also, with the support of President Lester, able to go out for our first AAPI studies full-time hire, which is so thrilling to start this fall. So we will be seeing a lot more efforts in this area to build curriculum, and I really look forward to partnering with that area to grow. In the Kapwa learning community, you already saw, they have so many amazing things that are going on now. Just today in the quad, they hosted a pop-up museum where students from the Kapwa learning community were able to show they had a pop-up museum where they had artifacts from their cultural backgrounds that they were able to share. And I really enjoyed learning from the students about their backgrounds. We had the APAH conference last week, which we already mentioned. We're working on an AAPI student success pilot, finding different ways to pair classes that have where our students are not doing as well from these populations and to provide additional support. And lastly, it's just been a pleasure to be working with Amber and Jen to be planning our very first AAPI recognition ceremony at the end of the year to recognize our AAPI students. It's going to be a little bit smaller this year as we try it out, but that's in the works too. And please watch out for more information for that. So I think we are just about out of time, and I wanted to thank Jennifer Kearns from our Office of Communications for helping out. This is our unveiling of our official logo for APAH. So thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you more about the APAH population and the grant and all the many things we want to accomplish.
Wow. Just all of that, right? Thank you to both of the groups for sharing the remarkable work that you are engaging in and will continue to engage in. And so for the two federally funded programs with the HSI and the APAH grant, we can see a lot more conversations and a lot more work collectively moving forward. So with that, I want to thank again all of our presenters, our vice presidents for the updates, the tech team for helping us run this meeting accordingly today, and to all the attendees. And with that, we will call the forum to a close, and our next forum will be on May 10th, and we'll see you all there. Take care.